Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello again.
Today, we're jumping right into maybe the biggest debate from SDGC 25. You know the one I mean.
Oh, yeah. The pixel debate from day 3, it definitely got people talking.
Right. The motion itself was pretty stark. Design in every team kills design. Really puts the central tension out there.
Absolutely. It forces you to think about, well, how do we scale design without losing what makes it design?
And we had Gabriela Salinas arguing for that motion, basically saying, yeah, spreading it out kills it.
And then Daniel Tuitt arguing against, saying, no, embedding design is actually the future. Nathalie Salas was hosting, facilitating.
What really kicked it off, I thought, was that initial poll they did before the debate even started.
Yeah, that was telling. 57% of the audience agreed with the motion right at the start.
Exactly. So more than half the room was already kind of nodding along with Gabriela, feeling that fear of dilution. Okay, so let's unpack her case first.
Okay, so Gabriela's core argument was, well, if design is everywhere, it ends up belonging nowhere. It's a systemic thing.
Right, it gets lost. And what does that mean for designers themselves?
Well, that's where I think it really resonated with people in the room. She
Yeah.
talked about careers just hitting a wall.
Because you end up reporting to, like, a head of HR or maybe marketing, someone who doesn't have a design background.
Precisely. So you lose that vital design mentorship. You're not getting feedback from design peers who really get it, and your growth path gets murky.
And the actual design work suffers too, right? That was the other big piece.
Yeah, the impact on the organization. She argued that when designers are embedded, they naturally start mirroring that specific team's metrics. Speed, conversion rates, delivery.
And they lose sight of the bigger picture, the overall user experience across everything.
That's the risk.
Yeah.
And it leads to, well, fragmented quality, different teams building similar things, duplicated effort all over the place.
And design's voice just gets weaker and weaker, diluted.
Yeah, it loses its authority because there's no unified strategic direction for design itself.
Okay, that paints a pretty convincing picture of, well, decline. So Daniel Tuitt had a tough job pushing back against that. What was his angle?
His angle was basically the complete opposite. He argued that actually integrating design strategically across the business is how you create more impact, how you build better companies overall.
So it's not dilution, it's strategic integration. How did he see that working in practice? Did he suggest a model?
Yeah, he talked about using a matrix structure, or you might call it a pod model. The idea is designers work closely with non-design folks in these cross-functional teams.
Okay.
But the key difference, he argued, is that this setup actually helps promote a shared language, especially with business leaders. It forces that connection.
Right, so being embedded isn't about isolation, it's about building bridges and understanding the business context. But what about that quality control issue Gabriela raised? How do you maintain standards?
Well, this is where he really highlighted the role of service design. He called our ability to see the entire end-to-end system a kind of superpower.
A superpower. Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, because service designers are trained to connect those dots, like linking design decisions to actual revenue streams or finding cost savings or thinking about governance, things business leaders care about.
So if you embed designers with that holistic view, they can translate design value into business terms, making design more strategic, not less.
That was exactly his argument. Design stops being just a service you call on and becomes an essential strategic partner.
And he had that warning too, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Pretty stark. He basically said organizations that only have a central design department, they probably won't survive the next 20 years.
Wow. Okay. That definitely challenges the old ways of working.
And that led straight into the main clash, the head-to-head part. Daniel kind of framed Gabriela's concerns as old thinking like designers needed to get out of their bubble.
Which I imagine ruffled a few feathers.
I'm sure. And Gabriela pushed back hard, saying, look, Daniel's vision sounds great, but it's often just not realistic on the ground.
Why not? What was the barrier?
Well, practically speaking, finding enough senior designers who can manage that complexity and hold their own strategically in every single pod, that's a huge hiring challenge.
True.
And she pointed out the reality for many. In embedded teams, the designer's perspective does often get drowned out by urgent delivery pressures or other business priorities. Their voice gets lost.
Okay, so the classic ideal versus the messy reality. How did Daniel try to bridge that gap?
He kept coming back to this idea of agency, taking ownership.
Agency, meaning designers need to step up.
Kind of. Like,
Right.
Stop complaining about not being involved early enough and start actively learning the language of diffness. Really understanding things like cost centers, profitability, market pressures.
Ah, so learn to speak their language to earn your seat at the table.
That was the core message. He argued that business literacy is the key. It's how service design can genuinely, rally people across different silos and drive strategy from within, not just react to it.
Okay, so it all comes down to this. Remember that initial poll? 57% for the motion, worried about design dying out. Well, this is the really fascinating part. After all the arguments, especially Daniel's push for strategic integration and agency, the final vote completely swung.
It did. The motion was defeated.
Yeah, decisively. The final result was 57% against the motion. So Daniel won the debate.
And that clean swing, from 57% for to 57% against, it's pretty dramatic. It really shows that the arguments landed. People in that room, experienced professionals, were persuaded.
Persuaded that, despite the real risks Gabriela pointed out, the potential strategic advantage of deep business embedding, the path Daniel laid out, well, that was the way forward.
Exactly. They chose the promise of greater strategic impact, even with its challenges, over maybe the perceived safety of keeping design more separate or purely craft-focused. A really interesting outcome for the profession.
Definitely food for thought. A clear win for the strategic integration argument on the day. Well, that's our time for this deep dive.
Great discussion. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thank you for listening.